Welcome to Inside the Creative Mind podcast, where we dive into the brilliant, the bold, and sometimes slightly unhinged world of creativity. From musicians, painters, and actors, to comedy and beyond, we spotlight those chasing inspiration. Got a story? Visit in-tunemedia.com to apply. Now let's welcome our occasionally humorous and slightly handsome host, Brian Jones.
So I've known Jack Adamant for a long time. In fact, I interviewed him back in 2022. Even then I could tell he wasn't going to stay in one lane very long. Now his sound has evolved into something more, I'm going to say, indie punk energy. But his latest album, Helium and Low Voltage Wiring, really captures that balance. So this is not just a conversation, it's a continuation. Let's get inside the creative mind of Jack Adamant. Jack, how's it going, my friend?
I'm good. Nice to see you, hon.
First of all, I really appreciate you coming on today, and I know how busy you are. You're probably one of the hardest working musicians out there, so taking time to join us is really cool. So I'm going to take this interview kind of as an approach of anybody that doesn't know who Jack Adamant is, and I think it's a great opportunity to kind of tell your story and come on and let's describe your music. You grew up in Italy, and you're now based in Stockholm. How has that cultural shift influenced your songwriting sound overall?
Oh, that's such a good question. I would say I grew up in Italy, and me, my drummer, and bass player, we all come from a very little village. So already going from a small village to a big city feels like a massive change. And what I felt was like people are more open to listen to new music, and it's easier to find like a niche of people that listen to the same kind of music as we do. And probably we should talk about like when you start a band, or I think probably it's the same for other people too that starting approaching music and wanting to start a band. I think probably it's a matter of validation to start with covers, so you feel more accepted by the crowd, by the people that might be interested in your music. And it was the same for us. We started like as a cover band, and then progressively we moved to recording our originals and presenting them to our fans. And I would say that they were a little bit skeptical in the beginning, but little by little they got used to it, and I feel that now they start recognizing certain lyrics and melodies, and they can sing along with our songs.
Well, that's pretty impressive. And I think, a lot of people come for the covers, right? They want to hear the covers, the things they're familiar with. But do you feel that since you've been in both Italy and Stockholm, that one place creatively has shaped your music more than the other?
As I said, for me, it was more like feeling less as a misfit.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we start like presenting our originals. And when I moved to Stockholm, but already when I was like in Rome, Naples, like big cities there in Italy, I thought that people were more open to listening new music and discovering new artists. So it felt very different. So it's hard to compare, like when you're coming from a small place and you move to
Right.
a bigger one. But I think both places, they give us a lot in terms of inspiration and musicianship. I don't know if I can say that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and you kind of summed it up well. So, kind of when I look through your bio and different things, and like I said, this is not the first time I've interviewed you, so I know a little bit about you, but not a stalker or anything. I just happen to follow your music. But you started playing guitar at like 12, and you started with, recording on a little, and I'm envisioning, you correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, a
Yeah.
little push button, probably like a Panasonic recorder that's got play and record on the same button if you push them down at the same time, you know. So that's kind of my first experience with recording also. So when you think of those early experiences, how did they shape the way you create music today? And what I mean by that is, do you incorporate some of that old school recording style into the final product that you're releasing today?
I think, Brian, when I started, I got this tape recorder, and then it's like I had also a stereo player, which works for both CDs and cassettes. And I was using both of them. So, for example, when I used to start like with a scratch track, maybe on a guitar, and then I was like recording on the tape recorder, and then play it back from the stereo. And at the same time, I was putting like a new tape in the tape recorder to record some extra parts, maybe an additional guitar, layering like vocals or like tambourine, shakers, whatever. But being very careful about not putting too much stuff, because you can understand it's like working in this way, it was adding a lot of like background noise, and then it was like it could be very messy at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to be very selective and to work very like how you say is like just deciding what is best for the song, and not trying to record too many things. So always like picturing the song in a stripped down version, and try to make the best out of the equipment that I had back then.
Do you prefer, like today when you're releasing music, you know, years later, and I just listened to like the latest release you had just a few minutes ago. One of them was in Italian, so I couldn't understand the language, but the other one was in English, and I got it, and I loved them both. I was tapping my toe to both of them. But do you prefer more of that raw or polished sound today, you know, when you're releasing things?
Actually, I appreciate Brian listening to my stuff, and we had to do some covers there, like Italian covers, just to make our Italian fans happy.
Made me happy too. There's a lot of those covers on there that I'm a huge fan of. So Friday, I'm in Love. I mean, come on, that's a killer song, and great,
I meant
great take on that,
ones.
by the way. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cheers. I think for us is the less time we spend like fiddling with knobs and plugins, the better it is, because then we can focus on the music and the arrangements. And I think that there's always been it's always been the biggest struggle for us, figuring out like a sound and a template that we can ready to go, that we can use it every time that we had a new song. So I think going back to the way I was recording, like when I was a kid, I should say, with a tape recorder, I think to be effective and minimal helped a lot. And just to understand the core of the idea that I had in mind and what the song needs.
Yeah, no, I think it's really, you sum that up really perfectly. So in America, when I think of punk rock, I'm thinking of like the Ramones or the Sex Pistols or even the Clash. But for you, a lot of your early influences might have been like Lou Barlow and Daniel Johnson. What do you think are the elements of those artists' music that kind of show up in your music today?
I think since I was a teenager, I've always been curious about discovering new bands, new music, underground, and stay away from the mainstream. But what I felt that those bands, they had more than others, is like they felt more real to me. And they were actually achieving a different goal, like delivering songs instead of fancy productions. I mean, and the way they were actually, or that they're still like, especially Lou Barlow with Sebadell or Jay Mascis with Dinosaur Jr., they're still like playing and delivering like great music. And those songs is like they easily translate into a live performance without feeling that something is missing when you listen to them, on a platform. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I feel that I got the most from them, this kind of approach. So as when we record, when we produce a new song, so the idea, the goal is still the same, just focusing on how to make those songs the best version of those songs without ending up overproducing them. And then when we play them live, it's like there will be big surprises because people, they won't recognize those songs anymore. If you know what I mean.
I do, exactly.
Yeah.
Well said. Before you kind of went on your solo career, you played with a band, and correct me if I'm not saying this right, Valeriana? Is that?
Valeriana.
Valeriana. How did that experience with kind of the heavier guitars, because that's kind of the sound that you guys had there, and touring live with them, kind of prepare you for your solo path? I mean, what did you learn about performing live during that time?
I think them was really cool because those guys, they were two brothers and they were coming from a background which was like grunge, alternative rock and power rock some way. I think bands like Dinosaur Juniors and Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, and I don't know, the Pearl Jam early sound as well. And I think it was very interesting to work with them compared to my solo project, because those guys, they were very creative. And then in the band, it was not only me writing songs, but also those two brothers. So we had a lot of material to choose from. And then sometimes it can be challenging in a way, because then when you start working on something and then you start experimenting and then someone else coming with a new idea, you start losing track of the end of this. You know what I mean? And but at the same time, it opens different scenarios, and you feel that it's like you start from a scratch track, and then you ended up to something completely different, which it feels cool. And but the approach was pretty much the same as those bands like Dinosaur Juniors and Sabadell. It's like being very bare bone. Try to record a song the way that it was played in the rehearsal room. So yeah, actually, I remember the first time that we went to a studio with them to keep the groove of the band, or to maintain that kind of groove. We were recording at the same time drums, bass, and guitar. And then on the top of that, we were maybe layering an extra guitar and at the very end, vocals. But the idea was just to deliver something that was organic, something that people will expect to listen to live. And
do you prefer now? I mean, that you're a little more mature in the industry. You're a little veteran here. Do you prefer the solo gig now that you kind of have, as opposed to the group setting where you really have full control over the creative process for the most part? I still record today, and I'll write a song and I'll send it out to the other musicians that are going to play on it, and many times they'll uncover something that I didn't think about, and they'll bring it to my attention. I'll be, no, I like your approach better. So there's that positive of the collaboration effect. And sometimes I appreciate it. And other times they bring things up that take me off course from what my original intent was. So for me, I still prefer the solo production, but I do appreciate the input. I just get to decide how I want to use that input, or if at all. Are you the same way?
I think my solo project, there is, because it's mainly me writing the songs, and the rest of the guy, Jed and Vix, they are helping with the arrangements, with the feedbacks. But we have a clear vision and a clear direction. So I just present them my scratch tracks, and we go from there. We are not trying to make major changes to those tracks, but we're trying to make a an improvement to those, because nowadays we have standards. So those songs has to be delivered in a certain way, and you cannot compromise there. So you know that you have to reach that kind of level of production in order to deliver your songs. But as I said, it's like there is one vision, one direction, and we just follow this one, which is like my one in this case.
No, that makes sense. So your debut EP, Lunch at 12 Since 82, which you have these incredible titles for your music often. Well, like I might have one word to describe the track. You've got like a sentence. So I'm going to repeat that. So Lunch at 12 Since 82 kind of explored relationships. How has your lyrical storytelling kind of evolved since that? And I guess to sum that up, are you more personal now or more observational? You know, are you talking about things around you or personal type issues in your songwriting?
I think there's been a change, also about like wording, the way I write now compared to back then. I think with Lunch at 12, it was mainly analyzing and describing the complexities of a relationship. So the theme of the album was still like something romantic. I think my songs nowadays feels less and less romantic, because I think it's a topic that I already touched, and I wouldn't like to maintain or to reintroduce it again and again. So also in our latest album, there are some like romantic songs, but it's like romance described from different angles, if you know what I mean. And actually now the approach is a little bit different, because like we know that a person should go through the entire album, and it can feel a little bit boring if it's just one theme, is mathematic. Yeah. So we try to vary a little bit so that it can feel a little bit different and more interesting when you go through the album. So not only musically but also lyrically.
Yeah.
And probably one more thing, Brian, is like we say things in a more direct way, while before was more introspective, I should say.
Yeah, I think your sounds kind of shifted. This is just my take. You correct me if I'm wrong. Your sounds kind of shifted from alternative folk and rock into more indie punk direction. What do you think sparked that evolution? Was it intentional, or did that shift happen gradually or all at once? What do you think?
I think it was when Jed and Vix joined the band, and those guys they come from like a very punk skate punk background, punk rock background, and of course they had like a massive influence on the sound of the overall band or the full band. But I think Jed was already working with me when we released Lunch at 12, mainly with the giving some feedbacks and with the artwork. But at the same time, he felt that he wanted to be more and more involved, and he's a drummer, and he felt that for the new material, probably was a good idea to get the full band back, and to keep the heavy sound that they already had with Valeriana, and they felt comfortable playing those songs in that way, so they could be a little bit more energetic and feel a little bit more natural. So probably that's why the sound is changed, and we feel comfortable playing like those songs in this format. Although like sometimes I had to play them myself, but then I can easily do like a stripped down version of them, which is the way that most of the time those songs were born.
Yeah, they were intended to sound that way. So you've recorded in cities like Stockholm, as we talked about, Liverpool and Rome. How do you think that environment impacts your creativity, being in those different locations? Do you write differently depending on where you are?
I think so. And I still believe that each city has a different music identity. So if you're only traveling to a place and stay there for a week or so, probably you won't get that much. Instead, when you're moving to a new place, like happened to me when I moved to Rome, for example, to Stockholm in the present time. Then you start seeing the city in a different way. You're more aware of the culture of the place. And as I said, each city has a different music identity. And also, like, if you think about Sweden, Finland, or Norway, those places, they are known for heavy music and metal music. And I always been passionate about those bands and introducing those kind of elements in my music, because I love like pop melodies, like something that you can sing along. But at the same time, I like when those are combined with something heavy, and sometimes can sound a little bit brutal because it's like too much distortion. But I think it's still cool. It's a good contrast. But still, like changing place, like give you a different perspective about everything.
So I want to talk a bit, because I actually brought you on, believe it or not, to kind of talk about your latest EP. Me and you could probably talk all day just about music in general, but I want to talk about the 2025 album. Again, helium and low voltage wiring. So you got a nice little sentence there for the title of that EP, which is cool. It just makes me want to listen to it just because of the title, and maybe that's how you're drawing more people in. But what was the core idea or emotional thread behind this new EP?
We wanted to have like a record of contrasts, both like lyrically and both like musically, and it still feels like the most mature record up until now, because we were aware of what we wanted to achieve with this record, and we already like worked on our sound, so everything felt a little bit smoother, easier. So not really stressful when you had to come up with a new sound or still working polishing your sound. So nowadays you talk about we speak about templates. So we have our own template ready to go every time that we have these new songs, and it felt good because based on the experience of the previous albums, this album actually was it was planned in a way. We knew where we were starting, and we knew where to get. And about contrasts and the elements, it's like it's a balance between light and heavy, fragile and audacity, I would say. But the contrast is also in the production, the way that it was engineered. I mean, like we kept those organic aspects, but at the same time, we took advantage of the new technology. So we were not afraid or not against like plugins or amp simulators or fancy compressors. Like nowadays, we work in a DAW, and inside the DAW, you can find like multiple things. Of course, the risk is like that you end up like in a rabbit hole, start like fiddling with things, and there will never be an end of it. So it's good to be structured the way we were for this one. But another aspect about contrast is about like the way that the world is moving nowadays. It's like this modern time where appearance it's the most important thing. You have to appear in a specific way, especially like on social media, and sometimes you feel like an illusion, which is more important than the essence. I know, and also the way you talk to people. It feels like you approach people you meet on the internet, and there you get used to them. You get to know each other on the internet, and then all of a sudden, it's like when it feels natural, you can meet in person. And I think it's more the other way around, the way it was back in the days. So there's been a major shift, and we are trying. And this album also like is about like trying to fit in this new world.
Yeah, no, man, I think we all struggle with the whole social media side of that. So you often define yourself of more of as of an entertainer than, a songwriter sometimes. And I think when you talk about using all the plugins and writing your new album, I think you got to be cautious of creating something and putting it out on Spotify or YouTube and then being able to go out and perform it, like you said. You don't want it to lose what the listener's expecting to hear, right? So it's a balance of you want to add a few plugins, but you don't want to overplug it, right?
Yeah, sure. 100%.
So, like you said, the album balance is kind of fragile and forceful. How do you, for me, that's tough to balance. Like, how do you approach creating that tension sonically and lyrically when you've got all these other influence? So how do you balance that when you're three people, three minds creating music? How do you decide on that path?
Well, the core of our sound is mainly try to deliver something that it can still be like listenable in a way. So we are very careful when we are writing melodies and lyrics, and also for the arrangements. We still want to that people will perceive us like there is a band playing behind those songs. They should feel like organic. They should feel real. And we still believe as a band is like we are a group of people working together, and we have this idea of creating like intentionally like melodies that can stay in our listeners. And at the same time, we don't want to sacrifice the heavy sound that we have. So it's like it's a balance, and always it feels like a contrast because like some melodies they will be nicer. Like I hear from some friends or fans sometimes it's like, but those songs will sound better on an acoustic guitar. I know, but it will be different. We are delivering a message here, not only like not only those songs.
You know, I think a lot of people, we talked a little bit about social media, and a lot of people aren't real. I don't want to say they're not real musicians, but they're not real performers. They haven't went out and done you guys have done so many gigs in your careers. You've performed live so many times, but what does that mean to you when you're performing and connecting with your audience? A lot of people haven't ever experienced that, but how does that feel from your perspective?
It feels like you are finally achieving what you were planning to do because writing a song is not only that. It's like the next step is like to arrange the song, make the song feeling like dress the song in a way that can be presented, and then it's just to deliver the song. And I know that some people, they can be a little bit against like uploading their music everywhere. A lot of conflicts about which platform is more reasonable to use, Spotify, Apple Music, and so on. I think for us the best is like we feel that we are done when the song is being uploaded on those platforms, because then the song is not our song anymore, but it belongs to everyone. And also about the lyrics, I can tell you the meaning from my point of view, just when I was writing the song, what it meant to me. But I'm open to see how the song landed on other people's experience. You know what I mean? And playing live is always feels the tip of the mountain. I know it's like the top of the mountain. It feels like the pulpit.
Yeah, it's crazy for people that have never done it. It's quite a feeling, and to me, it is like you said. You've reached the summit at that point when you're performing live.
Yeah, so that's what I meant.
What do you want people to feel? I mean, if you had control over it, what do you want people to feel when they leave your show?
Honestly, it's like that they will remind us some way that we gave them some emotions, and because when we play live, it's emotional for us, and we would like to give the same energy back to them. because it's that kind of interaction that is crucial for both sides. It's not only us like playing a show and showing how good we are, but it's the message that you deliver to your audience. And if this message stays there, it's the most important thing for us.
Jack, I just love how you handled these interviews. I learned so much from you introspectively. We're already out of time at the 30-minute mark, but every time I talk to you, I learn something, and it makes me kind of look in the mirror and think about the direction or things I'm doing as well. But is there anything else, while we got just a few minutes here, that you want to share, or any upcoming events that you want to shout out or broadcast?
As I said, we are playing a show in at the end of June to a festival in Italy, and we are planning to release some more covers because we are working on this new project now. That's like taking some those vintage old pop Italian songs and just remaking them some way in with our take of those songs. And it just feels if there is a message that should deliver to other musicians like us, don't stress too much about doing too many things nowadays. Because a musician is not only a musician anymore. You have to be like an influencer. You have to be like a social media manager. You have to be an entertainer. All those sort of things has been combined, and is the same person that has to wear too many hats. So it can be stressful sometimes, but just do the best as you can. I would just say to any other musician out there.
Jack, I have a request because one of my favorite songs is Modern English.
Yeah.
I'll Stop the World and Melt with You. And so as I was listening to all of your other covers, I'm going to respectfully request that you try that one for the next album. I love that. I love that song. So whether you do it or not is up to you, but that's my request to you, my friend. Use it as you see fit.
It can easily happen, for sure.
But my friend, I appreciate you taking time for us today. I really, truly do, because I know how busy you are. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't followed Jack Adamant on his Spotify or YouTube or Instagram, he's all over the place. Please go check him out. This guy's ultra talented. He's a true performer. He's not just a social influencer. This guy's the real deal. He's out there actually putting on the shows and the concerts and connecting with his fans. So please go out and support Jack. And Jack, thanks again for coming on today.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
You betcha.
Thanks for listening to Inside the Creative Mind with Brian Jones. Keep exploring, keep creating, and don't forget to tune in for the next 30 minutes of inspiration, streaming on all platforms. Your next spark of creativity is just a play button away.